Good morning and welcome to FMBE Live. We've got an interview session today for 15 minutes of FMBE, and I'm absolutely blessed in the context of my interviewee today, Huib Van Bockel, who is, I don't know, one of the heroes of brand experience marketing for sure, with a history of bringing Red Bull through from a kind of energy drinks to a media business, and with his book that number of us are aware of, Social Brand, which he talks about from time to time. Today, we're going to talk to him about some of his history from more recently, from 2016 to present day, where he has been developing his own challenger brand in the energy drinks market, Tenzing. Over to you, Hub. Just have a quick hello from you, and to say roughly, have I got that right? And has that been a fun journey?
Yeah, definitely. Well, no, yeah, that's correct. I was like before Red Bull, I was actually at MTV as well, which was a great experience before, because I was actually, what was interesting about that, I was responsible for one of the first social media platforms, even before Facebook was around, and we had like these ID pages, and it was really, you had like, it was called, the TMF was the local MTV in the Netherlands. And you had your ID page, and you just have your picture, and then you'd have a fake name. People would like say something, but even if you then had it was connected to your phone number. So if you then you could chat to one of the VJs on TV, and if you chatted, your picture came on TV. So it was actually quite a cool moment to kind of be part of that early thing. And also with the Red Bull, I always absolutely loved working there, and great company.
No, absolutely. Well, we're not going to dwell a huge amount on some of the Red Bull history, which is quite well known. But your business Tenzing came to my notice recently. We had a news piece on FMBE about your sustainability and social conscious related agenda for this energy drink of yours, Tenzing. Driving sustainability agenda for a smaller business and taking on a big business is something which is obviously on your agenda. We heard in the course of our kind of press context that there's an opportunity there to kind of out-create if you can't actually outspend. So it'd be nice to hear from you a little bit about how you're working that in terms of a challenger business in what is a pretty congested and busy energy drinks market with Tenzing.
Yes, exactly. So I think the key, the key elements, I think, with any new business, you hear lots about branding world, or start with why is a big quote that I absolutely don't agree with, because funny enough, although I have a big purpose and I have a big why, I would say, I think the key is to get the product right. And that's also interesting in this specific market, because all the products that are in this market have kind of been invented 25 to 30 years ago. Or you could even think about, Red Bull is obviously based on the Thai recipe, which is even way before that, right? Mm-hmm. And I always think, when the people ask me about like Coca-Cola and the amounts of sugar, or or the artificial ingredients and all the soft drinks, they're not by any way mean companies. They're just stuck with a product that was from, last century, and can't change that. Because if you go change your product, your fans will leave you, like what happened when Lucozade actually changed their products and put artificial sweeteners in there instead of sugar because of the sugar tax. But I think so. You could argue, no one in their right mind would, if you launch a new business now, would you say, I'm going to launch a high sugar, artificial ingredients brand? Mm-hmm. Right. So I think that's always the interesting, and that's always I think not to be underestimated advantage that a new company has when you enter a new space, is that you can just start with the latest science, with the latest behaviors and what people find important, and that gives you an advantage. I think our advantage is purely in our products. We said, okay, why, if you're looking for an uplift, if you're looking for some energy, why not get that, purely from plants, low calorie and sustainable? And that's also kind of sets us apart from any other kind of me too that has, because there in my time when I was at, that company, there was hundreds of me toos every year, and they all taste exactly the same products, exactly the same ingredients, and then no one will of course buy them. And that is something that we're fighting against sometimes, because sometimes people, if they've just heard of us a little bit, they go like, oh, you're another one, just kind of, and we say, well, we've actually said in the past, we ran and, we said you need energy, not an energy drink. So we say, it's a bit like we're the Oatly of what Oatly is to milk. So you drink it like when you need it. So the occasion is the same, but actually, if you look at the product, there's nothing the same about it. We have not all the ingredients are different.
And a recipe which has certainly got some history and heritage to it, which is wrapped up in the brand.
Exactly, which is really nice, because when I started, all I thought about were those three key things, right? Plant-based, purely for plants, low calorie, and sustainable. And then I was actually traveling, and I found out what the Sherpas drank, and they drink a really strong tea. And for people who don't know Sherpas, they're most known for living, obviously, they live in the Himalayas, and they're most known for Sherpa Tenzing, who was the first man on Mount Everest. But they live there, and they do all their work and all their leisure at very high altitude. So it's like, what do they use to keep themselves energized? And they have actually the Sherpa tea, which is a really strong tea with salt, and they drink a lemon tea, which is very high in vitamin C. So I had a doctor help me out at the time with my recipe, and I said, is this a cultural thing or does it make sense? And he goes, it actually makes a lot of sense, because it's that triple hits of natural caffeine, vitamin C, and electrolytes. So that then became the base of our recipe. And then I thought, okay, it would be cool to kind of then honor Tenzing, who was the first man on Mount Everest. And then I got in touch with the family, and I got their blessing, because you don't actually find out if you don't need.
That's cool. That's nice.
Yeah, you don't actually need. So I remember going to because I remember speaking to one of those lawyers who's, kind of, for your trademark. And I said, do I need permission? Because he goes, no, you don't, because Tenzing is it's a very common name. So you'd be calling your brand John in Asia. So I think, but I was really adamant. So I said, I really want their permission. So, and it was really a great part of the journey, to be honest, because my family met that family, and I've been out, now to meet them a couple of times, and and they're partners in the business. So I think
that's lovely to hear, and I think that a lot of our listeners and readers and viewers like to hear a lot about authenticity. And to make that an authentic note, I think, is probably quite an important thing for the experience of the brand going forwards.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me, what I just liked about having my own business is the creative freedom, right? And the kind of to you never know what's going to happen next. And this was such an amazing part of the journey to kind of get to know a new culture for me, and speak to them, and speak about their history. And I went to Jumbling Tenzing, which is one of the sons of Sherpa Tenzing. He's a guide, and a very good guide in his own right, and he actually climbed Everest as well. And went in to Timboche Valley, didn't go all the way up. I vowed to my wife, you can call your brand Tenzing, but you're never allowed to climb Mount Everest. so I didn't go all the way up, but it's just great meeting him and meeting them.
And you got this so they got quite an on-trend plant-based recipe that was presumably something which has grown onto trend since you came up with it. Yeah. And on top of which, now a much kind of bigger carbon neutral ethos for Tenzing, and what it means to you as a kind of in a more of an umbrella process. Tell us a bit about carbon neutrality.
It's a good. So on your first point, actually, it's very good, interesting, because that was always the basis, right? Plant-based, low calorie, sustainable. But then, interestingly, over the years, so that was 6 years ago. Then first that hit was the low calorie, because then the sugar tax came along, and we were below sugar tax already. So we launched a brand that was below sugar tax, because we felt that was the right amount you needed. For you don't need 11% of sugar for energy. You need about 4 to 5%, which is what we have. We have about 60% less sugar than the average full sugared energy drink. And then plant-based became really on trend, and now exactly the sustainability, which you've always had from the beginning, has grown massively. So, and I think you just need a bit of luck or a bit of foresight, both to kind of to have that along the way. And I think so the sustainability side, which is really cool about that, is like it was always part of the brand. We always said, so our first projects were, for instance, when I met with the Tenzing family, we said, what can we do here in Nepal to help out? As our first project on the environment. And, you know, obviously it was quite, you know, it's quite famous that it was quite littered routes up to Everest. And I said to, you know, John Ling, I said, should we organize these cleanup parts? He goes, well, that doesn't have a lasting effect. What actually is is the non-sexy way, but the best way is to build bins. So to build bins, like, you know, stone bins where they can actually, you know, have different, like the plastics and separate the trash, and also then fund the taking down of the trash. So that's what we've been doing right from the beginning. You know, I think we've built multiple bins over the years. And so that was our first project. Our second project was actually, you know, the carbon. I don't know if you heard about it. It's the Clean Air Tracker. So we're all key runners at Tenzing. And then at one point I read an article that if you run in London, especially above a certain age, it's actually detrimental to your health to run because of the big smoke. And it was an article where they used the data from King's College, and then we got in touch with King's College, and we connected their data with an app that we built, and we connected to Strava, so that you can map out the cleanest run, so you can just find clean air in the big smoke.
I think it's no secret to some of my field marketing brand experience audience that I also have this interest in ultra running. So I'm very much on Strava. I'm very much aware of the app, although I live in Wiltshire and don't really have the need of it in this neck of the woods. But if I'm traveling to a marathon somewhere, then I certainly will try and train in the clean streets based on my Tenzing app.
Yeah, exactly. It's just beautiful. It's what I believe in. Like, you know, what I wrote about the social brand in my book is about, you know, doing something of actual value. And I think the Clean Air Tracker is such a great example of that. That was just because I didn't want to run in the smog. So I thought, is there a way to kind of find cleaner routes? And we built it. And then obviously it's very useful for many people. And that's how they get to know maybe then Tenzing as a result. But the beginning idea is literally like, what can we do to support people? And it was chosen the #1 app by Men's Health in 2020, you know. So that's a cool which we did on the side. It was all like professional app builders, and we were like a plant-based drink that built an app on the side. So that was real cool. And then I think, funny enough, in the lockdown period, again, actually, it came about while running, because I was running. To be honest, I was in I was probably mentally in one of my worst states, I have to say, because, you know, you go like, did I swear? Sorry. Like, you know, I thought, okay, has 5 years of hard work come to an end, right? Like in the beginning, I thought, you know, what's going to happen? Because, you know, all the stores where we're big is like offices, universities, gyms, but also city center stores like M&S. That's where we're selling. And half of the stores we're selling shut down. And the other half wasn't selling as much anymore. So we collapsed in those first months. And I thought, and I had to, you know, people on furlough, I had to let people go. You know, we were a very small, tight-knit team. So it was like a horrible phase, to be honest. And one thing that's always kind of kept me going is indeed, well, then much like yourself, running. So I'm not like just, you know, your 5Ks, 5 to, you know, 7Ks, like, you know, on a regular basis, which I love doing. I lived at Chiswick, so right next to the Thames. I used to run there. And then I passed this sign that said, thank you to all our essential workers. Now, I don't know if more people had that, but I was quite hurt by that. I was like, yeah, I'm already down. I'm running because this kind of keeps me sane. And then I had to run past a sign, which in my opinion was totally right, but I felt that I wasn't essential. I just felt like, you know, I'm not essential. And then that was the moment when I thought, okay, you know, how can we all become essential? And like, you know, and then to avert the next crisis. And then we decided, although our business was halving, we decided to double down on our environmental efforts and really go, we're going to be, you know, we're going to take responsibility for our whole carbon. We'd always done environmental projects, but we'd never taken it as far as, look, we're going to take responsibility for our whole carbon footprint. You know, be honest about it. So we're going to be sharing exactly, you know, the amounts of carbon we have we did a whole lifestyle analysis on all our products, on our total company. We've minimized, so for instance, we've moved production to the UK, so we took 20%. So it's basically the 3-leg approach, which I think everyone should take, which is first of all, knowing it, right? Second of all, then kind of minimizing where you absolutely can. And first of all, by knowing it and sharing it, because that's the scary part, right? Just telling the world what your footprint is.
Mm-hmm.
Then second, minimizing, and then thirdly, kind of offsetting. And we offset more than we emit, right? So by quite a bit. And then we actually put a fourth pillar in there to saying, like, if you subscribe to Tenzing, we put about 15% of that turnover into offsetting your carbon footprint as well. So if you're a Tenzing subscriber, we'll offset your carbon footprint too. And that is based on the average UK citizen's footprint, 8.4 tons, and we use our partner Ecology to offset that footprint.
That's a brilliant idea. Certainly the ultra runners that I know that also like a bit of travel when we can travel again will be interested to know how they can offset the guilty aspect of their trip, the travel part, whilst getting out into some of these trails and helping to clean up that litter with you.
I think it's just an important point though that I want, because I think it is like, because I just talked to our head of sustainability, Emily, yesterday. I wish so for instance, I don't eat any mammals. So I still eat fish and an occasional chicken. So I don't eat anything from mammals. So it's like, it's a non-descriptive term that's not been ever either vegan or vegetarian, but I'm like a non-mammalian. Mainly for environmental reasons, but it's not fun to not eat meat, right? It gives you a good content, but it's not fun. And I think exactly, you can't strip out all the fun like by not running anymore or not traveling, right? So it's like, and I think that's why it is also important to say, okay, know your comfort, minimize it, but still do the things that really give you kind of pleasure, and then especially if there's no other ways to, and then just offset it. And I think it's also important. Offsetting sometimes gets a bad reputation.
I certainly think that there's potentially an immense cultural cost as well in not allowing people to connect in a physical way, in a way that's hands across the water and brings people together. And collectively, we can make these things better by getting together. So there's an element of that too.
Yeah, totally.
It'll be remiss of me now not to bring you on to, we will obviously link through on the website to some of the in-depth carbon neutral stuff so that people can have a chance to read more about that. It'd be remiss of me not to bring you on to the current activities of the brand and how you're going to bring it out of the kind of post-pandemic side of things. In particular, you'll know that my audience are interested in brand experience and experiential marketing. We've got an example up behind me, very recent one of your ice sculpture of David Attenborough, which was gave us a little flavor of the kind of thing you might try and do coming out post-pandemic. What are the plans for the brand looking ahead?
So we always, we come up with most of our ideas ourselves, and we always work towards one, and then we finish one, and then go, okay, what's next now? So I like say, for instance, with Emily, like I should say, we're like brainstorming yesterday, and so I think the key thing for us is to so we want to so we said with this our environmental pledge, we're taking action, and it's about taking our responsibility, and we just want to support as many people to do that. So we've got online, we've got our cleaner tracker, now we've got our carbon tracker as well, so you can just in a very simple way see what your carbon footprint roughly is, see if it's higher or lower than the UK average, and then find ways to offset that either through a subscription or through other ways. So I think that was only kind of scratched the surface on what we've said about that. So the ice sculpture was really kind of to make people aware of their personal footprint. So that is the same amount of ice that the average UK citizen melts in a fortnight. So I think people don't and I always think it's important to take your own responsibility, because you can say, well, government's not doing anything or big companies aren't doing anything, but at the end of the day, it's the collective individual, it's us. It's not the governments aren't polluting effectively. It's like us driving a car that's polluting, or us flying somewhere that's polluting, right? So I think it's really about taking your own responsibility. I've always been a big believer in that, and that's what we kind of want to do in just a fun, way where you just make people aware. So that I think that principle is like, we've only just started on that journey, but so there'll be more things to follow up with that.
I mean, are there, if we've got if we've got people from our agency side that are hearing this conversation that have got kind of cute ideas in the world of CSR and environment, should they be kind of packaging those ideas together and proposing them to Tenzing or not?
They can always, for sure. The thing is, I'm a bit scared because we like coming up with stuff ourselves, and this is like something we did with Nexus, our kind of that we work with our agency. And I'm obviously a big believer in not being that's why I think the clean air tracker or the carbon tracker are such good examples, because they're actual things. I've never been a fan of so this sculpture is actually just a tool to make people aware of and then they should track their footprint online, right? So
we will adhere to that.
I've
got one final area which I want to talk to you about. It's takes a little bit of a segue, but a required one, to just because I know that I've got my audience of field marketers on tenterhooks to hear about this. You've established this brand now across a number of different grocery multiples, across as a popular, very fast growing consumer product, and my field marketing people would love to know how you're working at the moment with distribution and field sales and field merchandising. Could you tell us touch on that a little bit in any way of interest to you, really?
Yeah, so that was actually one of the, when I had my, one of the lowest moments in my Tenzing life, for sure, like at the beginning of lockdown. So we called them the Zing team. So we had a Zing team of 25 that were all students. And that would be they would sample, they would activate the store, and obviously just overnight, sampling a can to someone, became impossible for the unforeseeable future, right? So no one's we thought at the time, who knows how long it will take, and taking a can from someone else, and they were obviously all parts of the students, so we had to kind of let them all go. So that was also extremely sad, because they were one of the most proudest thing within. I loved the team, and a lot of people came through that program. So someone in the team now was exiting, so it's a great way also to find talent. But now actually we're gonna bring it back in a slightly different form, and really more in an activation form. So we want to kind of go, instead of focusing more on sampling, which will be tough for a while to come, I guess. Really
That's your
kind of
sampling team there.
Yeah, exactly. Super.
So yes, you were saying going to go to a different type of activation.
Yeah, so it'll be more like, so we've actually got a gregreat presence in gyms. So we're actually available in most gyms. So in gyms and our key kind of outlets, let's say like Tesco, Sainsbury's, Co, you get a more regional approach. So instead of being, it used to be kind of an arm of the marketing team, where you're going to go, sampling and trial. Now we say, no, let's make it more of the, sales team, and let them own an area. And then you get like a limited amount of stores in your area. You get like I said, you get a couple of retailers, a couple of gyms, and you're literally just like an entrepreneur. We tell you like how to do things and how to activate, but then all we do is you get your rate of sale every week. And then you just see your own little area. I would love to have that job when I was like 21 and a student, because you just get your own little area, and it's about like how to make it a thing in that area. So I'm a big believer in we have like self-managing teams. We don't have a hierarchy. That's why actually we've done so well, I think, in the Zoom era, because we don't have any kind of checking bosses. It's just we know that everyone's motivated and decides their own agenda. And that's what we want to do with our students now as well.
Okay, I think one final question then is, obviously I understand where gyms might come into that, and that's they will understand the nuances, I'm sure, of the Tenzing brand, and soon learn them from your team. How about grocery retailers and convenience stores? Do they get Tenzing? Is it hard sell to them? What are the challenges?
No, so we were actually, interestingly, except for Waitrose, we were hoping and expecting to be our first retailer. It's the only retailer that hasn't got us, funny enough. I think funny enough, if you say it's like saying, you know, all cars should be electric. You know, maybe when they started saying that a couple of years ago, everyone was like saying that's crazy. But it's now, if you say we believe, you know, an uplift or a boost or some energy you should get from plants, low calorie and sustainable, who's going to deny that? Who's going to say no? You know, so I think it's funny enough, it's not, especially to you know, retailers, and to that they also want to, you know, move the needle on those three areas. So funny enough, I think it's often easier to get, you know, than the actual end drinker, because they're still, you know, obviously rightly so stuck. They're not going to go in front of the shelf and go, hey, let's reevaluate my choices here that I've been making over the last years. So, you know, it's they take a little bit longer to kind of. So I think from a, you know, we've always been very supported by, you know, a huge number of retailers, and you know, so I think, you know, with the likes of Tesco's and Sainsbury's, and, you know, also BP, or, you know, or Holland & Barrett. So we've got a lot of whole food. So we've also got a lot of the health space, you know, that were kind of first movers there, like, you know, Plants Organic. You know, so I think they also really see that that's the future of energy.
I think, well, that sounds like the future of energy sounds like a reasonable place to wrap up. The advantages of this product are pretty clear to me. I'm certainly looking forward to getting a couple of cans together myself. The message which you put across with Tenzing, I think, is a very compelling one, and with your history and heritage, well, we've seen how fast the brand is growing. I wish you lots of luck post-pandemic for lifting it out. Thank you for those very honest and open answers. Really looking forward to seeing where you go with this in the future. I'm sure we'll all be listening out to see how you take it on. Huib Van Bockel, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank, for having me.